Metal Up World, this is CJ, the Metal Motivator of cjortiz.com and metalmotivation.com. This is the first of a new 5-message series I'm doing on raising good kids in a crazy world. Now, this is all shown in my Life Domination online coaching program, which you can learn more about if you visit the link below. But raising good kids in a crazy world. It does seem like the world is getting a little bit more crazy, doesn't it? I don't know whether it's just the information age or what, but something has gone off the rails. And if you have concerns about the future of your kids, and man, I understand. You say, CJ, what do you know about kids? Well, I've raised some myself. I spent most of my adult life raising my kids. Now, my kids are all adult. I have 3 of them. The oldest will actually be turning 31 here in just a couple of weeks. Yes, I have reached the ripe age of 52 years old at the time of this recording. So raising kids is important to me. I value family. Family is important, so we're going to talk a lot about that this week. But I want to help you and just sharing some of the things that I have learned over the years with raising kids. If you haven't heard it, I have a podcast, actually, which I've done with a couple of my kids called Keep It in the Family. And so you'll be able to hear firsthand the thoughts and outlook and perspective and philosophy from my own kids. So you can check me out if you want. So just go to my website, metalmotivation.com, and again, go to the menu bar, look for podcasts, and you'll see Keep It in the Family. So check that out. But I want to talk about several things this week. I want to talk about disciplining kids. I want to talk about what we need to be teaching. What are the foundational things we need to be teaching our kids? What about kids in media, technology and all of that? What's it going to take to build stronger kids these days? Health, nutrition, learning, how they see other people, being leaders, all of that stuff. I want to address all of that. In fact, we're going to talk about basically 33 essential keys and principles to raising great kids, good kids in a crazy world. So today I want to talk about the 9 things every parent should know, because that's where it all begins, right? It all begins with you and me, mom and dad. Mom and dad. These are 9 things every parent should know. Now, some of this you may just feel like, well, man, this is not new information. Well, these are things we need to go over, because everything's going to come down to your philosophy of life. Everything's going to come down to the way you look at things, to the way you see your kids, the way you see the family, the way you see yourself in light of the whole world. These things make a difference. And we get caught up in the busyness of life and we forget that. We forget how much our own philosophy fuels what it is that we do, whether work, family, or anything else. So 9 things every parent should know. Number 1 is this: the family is the main institution of society. The family is the main institution of society. What do I mean by that? Well, think of all the other institutions. Think of government. Think of corporations. Think of organized religion, what have you. What is the primary institution in society? Which one is in charge? Which one's the best? Which one's the top of the chain? Well, I would say it's the family. Now, people miss that because the family is made of flesh and bone, right? It's a biological, sociological reality. We look at buildings in Washington, D.C., or wherever your capital is, and you see the big, stone pillars and all the laws and all the politicians and all of that. You think, oh, they must be the top of the food chain. Because all of those individuals came from where? Families. All of those people in the schools came from where? Families. All of those people running religion came from where? Families. All those people in the heads of corporations, where'd they come from? Families. Everything begins and ends with the biological family. How deep does this affect us? Well, just think of the fact that, listen, I have neighbors that I care about, people that live next to me, but if something tragic were to happen to them, you think it's going to ruin my life? You think it's going to be affecting me a year from now? Probably not, right? Why? Because even though they're in close proximity to me, they're not what? Family. Now, what happens if something happens to my own? That's a whole different story. Family is the primary institution. Remember that. Don't let the government tell you it's them. Don't let religion tell you it's them. Don't let a corporation make you think they're the ones steering everything. It begins and ends with your very own family. Number 2, it's good to have kids. Now, you will see this online, people saying that the world is so bad, I'm just not going to bring another kid into the world. That's a dumb thing to say. That's a dumb thing to say. We're going to talk more about that this week because your kids and your family can be used to make a difference in the world. Your family can be used to make a difference in the world. Number 3, we're not here to raise smart, rich, beautiful people. What the world needs is good people. Now, I'm not saying your kids shouldn't take care of themselves. I'm not saying your kids shouldn't seek after great careers or whatever. That's all secondary. The main thing is we need good kids. I want my kids to be good more than I want them to be PhDs, right? I want them to be good more than I want them to be a millionaire. I want them to be good more than I want them to be anything else. We need good people more than anything else. Number 4, we need to teach them to love and honor one thing above all. What's that? Principles. No matter what it is in life, everything is governed by principles. Now, I say this a lot. You look at the basics, mathematics, right? Everything is governed by mathematics. There's laws that are as sure as anything else. Electricity, the laws of flight, the laws of this, the laws of that. The principles that govern any area of life, these things are always sure. They are always absolute. They never change. So in that sense, they are the things that have some authority in our lives. And so we should teach our kids to honor principles more than anything else, which means essentially honoring wisdom. We should honor wisdom, instruction, knowledge, understanding. These things are important because they teach us how to govern our lives, whether in finances or relationships or health or anything else, right? Next, we want to teach them that their best defense in life is to be stronger mentally and emotionally. I would say that for anybody. Your best defense in life is a stronger you. So your kids are going to have to be taught to be stronger mentally and emotionally. They got to know that's their best defense. Not government, not another person, not hiding, whatever. You need to be strong, and they need to be strong. Self-government is the foundation to all government. So I don't care what part of the world you live in, and I don't care what your political leaning is. One thing we should be able to agree on is this. Self-government is the foundation to all forms of government. Self-government is the foundation to all forms of government. No form of government can work. I don't care if you're a socialist or I don't care if you're a libertarian. Nothing works unless the people govern themselves. Nothing works unless the people govern themselves. That's why you go to a country like North Korea where it's an absolute dictatorship, and what do they have to do? They have to make sure there's cameras everywhere and surveillance. They have to make sure there's secret police everywhere. Why? Because the only way to make the dictatorship work is to ensure that government at every level. Okay? So nothing works without self-government. They have to understand that the primary definition of maturity is responsibility. And so you're raising them to be responsible, which means what? Self-governing agents. If you had kids, this is something else to learn, your independence is over. That's right. If you've had kids, your independence is over. People talk about I have to sacrifice and do this, I can't do this because I've had. Of course, if you chose to bring kids into this world, you've got to own up to that responsibility. You have a responsibility not only to those kids, but a responsibility to the rest of us in this world to take care of them. We've seen too much hell happen from kids who are poorly raised. We've seen too much abuse happening to kids. If you've brought kids into the world, yes, your independence is a little bit over. You are their first society, government, everything else. You are the one they're going to experience first. You're the one they're going to learn is in charge. That's how they're going to learn authority. That's how they're going to learn social interaction. That's how they're going to learn justice. That's how they're going to learn anything. They're going to learn everything initially from you. You are their first government. You are their first school. You are their first church. You are their first everything. Realize that. Know that you are the living, breathing example for them. And lastly, don't let other people and things raise your kids for you. It is so easy. And I know busy moms, this is a tough one. It is so easy just to throw a DVD in or turn on a Netflix or whatever and just let the TV raise your kids. It's so easy just to let other people do it for you, to just send them off to school and think the school's going to do it for you. You don't let them be tended to by other people, right? You are their primary instructor, man. That's your job. Like I said, the independence ends. Don't let TV and social media and all these other things raise your kids for you. You know, back in the 70s when I grew up, there was someone on TV called, you probably heard of him, called Mr. Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And the reason why Mr. Rogers, who was formerly a minister, started this TV show is because of what was happening in society. You had women then going into the marketplace where then kids were being left home alone, more so, right? They'd come home from school or whatever. And so a lot of these kids were hurt and they weren't understanding because it was a different age coming about. And so he saw that need, man, and he produced that show to reach those kids and you know, help them understand the world and the crazy things that are happening. Sometimes I often say that, you know, Metal Motivation, I call it Tony Robbins meets Metallica, but a lot of times, sometimes I think it's Mr. Rogers meets Metallica because the issues that I like to deal with sometimes involve a whole lot more than just motivation. But, you know, these are some of the things that I think are foundational stones to what it takes to start raising great kids. You got to know what the family's all about. You got to understand the place in the world. You got to understand your role as parents. Now, obviously, any one of these points could have their own 5-message series. We don't have the time for that sort of thing. But stay with me all this week. We're going to talk about a whole lot more. Like I said, everything from discipline to instruction to all these things. And what are some great ways to raise some good kids in the crazy world that we live in? If you'd like to see the rest of these videos, you can do so in my Life Domination online coaching group. It's easy to do, very inexpensive. I encourage you to join. Learn more at the link below, metalmotivation.com/Life Domination Coaching. This is CJ, the Metal Motivator. And remember, in whatever you do, don't suck. Metal up.